dive into the early 20th century, a time of rapid industrialization, rising nationalism, and global tension. We find ourselves amidst the major powers of the era: Germany, Austria, Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, Britain, France, and Russia, bound by their alliances in the Triple Entente and Triple Alliance. The world watches as Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary falls victim to an assassin's bullet, a spark that ignites the powder keg of international relations. With a single gunshot, a world teetering on the brink of conflict descends into the First Global War. As the world plunged into war in 1914, alliances shifted and battle lines were drawn. The early days saw a flurry of activity, with Germany making significant strides in the West. They swept through Belgium and pushed deep into France, coming dangerously close to Paris. This was the Schlieffen Plan in action, a strategy designed to swiftly knock France out of the war. But the German advance was not without its obstacles. The French and British forces put up a brave fight, and the Battle of the Marne marked the end of Germany's rapid progress. From there, the Western Front settled into a grim pattern of trench warfare. Picture a network of ditches stretching from the North Sea to the Swiss frontier, filled with soldiers living in unimaginably harsh conditions. The land between the opposing trenches, known as no man's land, became a deadly battleground where advances were measured in yards, not miles. Meanwhile, on the Eastern Front, Russia was grappling with its own challenges. The nation was ill-prepared for war, and early battles saw the Russians suffer heavy losses against the Central Powers. The turmoil of war only exacerbated the existing political unrest at home, leading to the Russian Revolution in 1917. This upheaval resulted in Russia exiting the war, freeing up German forces to focus on the Western Front. 1917 also marked a significant shift in the global dynamics of the war, as the United States entered the fray. The sinking of the Lusitania and Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare had provoked American indignation, leading to their declaration of war against Germany. The arrival of fresh American troops bolstered the Allied forces and marked a turning point in the war. By 1918, the conflict had reached a global scale, with battles fought on land, at sea, and in the air. The Great War, as it was then known, had become a true world war, and its impact would be felt for generations to come. The year 1918 marked a turning point in the war, as exhausted nations sought an end to the bloodshed. The world had seen enough destruction and loss, and a collective yearning for peace began to permeate the air. The Allies, rejuvenated by the arrival of American troops, launched a series of successful offensives against the Central Powers. The tide of the war began to turn distinctly in their favor. The German Spring Offensive, a last-ditch effort to overpower the Allies before American forces could fully deploy, had failed. The Allies responded with the 100 Days Offensive, a counterstrike that pushed the Germans back and marked the beginning of the end for the Central Powers. As the Allies advanced, the Central Powers started to crumble from within. The people were weary from years of war, their resources depleted, their spirits broken. In the autumn of 1918, one by one, they began to seek peace. Bulgaria was the first to sign an armistice in late September, followed by the Ottoman Empire in late October. Austria-Hungary followed suit in early November. Finally, Germany, the last bastion of the Central Powers, found itself isolated and under pressure from both the Allies and its own people. On November 11, 1918, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, Germany signed the Armistice of Compiègne. The war that had raged for over 4 years, claiming millions of lives and changing the face of the world, finally came to a halt. The world breathed a sigh of relief as the news of the armistice spread. Celebrations erupted in the streets of Paris, London, and New York, but amidst the jubilation, the cost of the war was not forgotten. The world was forever scarred by the horrors of the Great War, the memories of which would linger for generations. In a war-torn world, the guns fell silent, marking the end of the Great War. The First World War left a profound impact on the world, shaping the course of the 20th century. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in June of 1919, marked the formal end of the war. It imposed punitive terms on Germany, holding it responsible for the conflict. Germany was stripped of territory, disarmed, and saddled with reparations that left the country economically crippled for years to come. But the cost of the war extended far beyond economic terms. The human toll was staggering. Millions of lives were lost, families torn apart, and entire generations scarred by the horrors of the battlefield. The world had witnessed destruction on an unprecedented scale. In the aftermath, the map of Europe was redrawn. New nations emerged from the ashes of empires, their borders carved out by the victors. The shift in power dynamics was palpable. The United States emerged as a major global player, while the old European powers grappled with decline. Yet the legacy of the First World War was not just of loss and change. It was a lesson in the devastating consequences of global conflict, a warning from history about the perils of unchecked nationalism and militarism. It was a call to strive for peace, to build a world where such carnage would never be repeated. In its wake, the First World War left a world forever changed, setting the stage for the conflicts and transformations of the coming decades.